She handed me divorce papers the day after our son was born, then crawled back into my life years later, her eyes fixed on my inheritance. But this time, I held all the power, and her lies were about to unravel. I'm Daniel Carter, used to swing hammers for a living. Now, I'm the paycheck my ex suddenly remembers exists. I met Laura in college. She was a spark, a flame that lit up every room. Bright, bold, always laughing, always drawing people in. I was different, quiet, steady. The guy who showed up on time, worked hard, kept his word. We balanced each other, or so I thought. She was studying law, dreaming of courtrooms and justice. I was in engineering, learning to build things that lasted. We'd spend nights talking about the future, a house, kids, a life we'd make together. We got married at 24, young, broke, but full of dreams. The wedding was small, just family, a few friends, a backyard reception with string lights and cheap wine. I worked construction to pay the bills. Laura got a job as a paralegal, biding her time until she could take the bar exam. We bought a modest house on the edge of town. 2 bedrooms, a leaky roof, a backyard just big enough for a swing set. It wasn't much, but it was ours. Our first daughter, Emily, came 2 years later. I'll never forget holding her. So tiny, so fragile, her little fingers curled around mine. Laura was exhausted but glowing. We were a team then, trading night shifts and diaper changes, laughing through the chaos. Sophie came 2 years after that, all curls and giggles. Life was loud, messy, beautiful. We were building something, a family, a future. By the time our third child, Noah, was born, we'd been married 7 years. 7 years of late-night talks, shared bills, arguments over dishes, and promises to stick it out no matter what. I understood what marriage meant. Duty, love, sacrifice. Or at least, I thought I did. But something changed after Noah. Laura grew distant, cold. She stopped talking about her dreams, stopped planning for the future. She'd sit on the couch, scrolling her phone, barely looking up when I came home from work, my hands rough from the construction site, my clothes dusted with dirt. I'd try to talk to her, ask what was wrong, but she'd just shrug. "I'm tired," she'd say, or "It's nothing." I told myself it was normal. 3 kids under 5 will wear anyone down. Postpartum, maybe. Stress, the weight of our life. I'd bring her coffee in the morning, take the kids to the park to give her a break. I'd fix the leaky sink, mow the lawn, do whatever I could to make it easier. I thought it would pass. I thought we'd find our way back to each other. I was wrong. The day after Noah was born, I was still in the hospital, sitting by Laura's bed, holding his tiny hand. He was perfect. Blue eyes, a soft coo, the kind of miracle that makes you believe in something bigger. I was tired but happy, thinking about the life we'd give him, the family we'd built. Then Laura looked at me, her face blank, and handed me a stack of papers. "I can't do this anymore," she said. Her voice was flat, like she'd practiced it in her head 100 times. "I need space, Daniel. I need to find myself." Find herself? The words didn't make sense. We had 3 kids, a mortgage, a life we'd poured everything into, and she was done, just like that. I stared at the papers, my hands shaking, Noah still asleep in my arms. I wanted to yell, to demand answers, but I couldn't. Not there, not with our newborn between us. "What about the kids?" I asked. "We'll figure it out," she said, looking away. I can't be married anymore." I didn't fight it. What was the point? If she didn't want me, didn't want us, I wouldn't beg. I signed the papers. I walked out of the hospital, my heart in pieces, and drove to a motel because I couldn't go home. Not yet. The divorce moved fast, too fast. Laura got the house, primary custody of the kids, and half my paycheck in child support. I moved into a 1-bedroom apartment near the construction site, a place that smelled like mildew and regret. I saw the kids every other weekend. Emily, 5 years old, would cry when I dropped her off. Sophie, 3, would cling to my leg, begging me not to go. Noah was too young to understand, but I'd hold him a little longer each time, memorizing his face. I understood what it meant to lose everything. The house I'd fixed up, the family I'd built, the woman I'd loved. It was gone. I worked, I paid the bills, I showed up for my kids, but inside, I was hollow. Months passed. I tried to rebuild, to find some kind of rhythm. Wake up, work, see the kids, sleep, repeat. But then I started noticing things. Laura was different. New clothes, designer, not the clearance rack stuff we used to buy. A new car, sleek and shiny, parked in the driveway of our old house. She'd post pictures on social media. Vacations, beach trips, places a paralegal's salary couldn't touch. I'd drop the kids off, and there'd be signs of someone else. A man's jacket on the couch. The faint smell of cologne I didn't recognize. One day, I asked Emily, "Who's been at the house, sweetheart?" She looked down at her shoes, twisting her fingers. "Mommy's friend," she said. Mommy's friend. The words cut deeper than the divorce papers. I understood. Laura hadn't just left me. She'd replaced me. 2 years after the divorce, Laura started texting me. Not about the kids, about money. "Emily needs new shoes," she'd write. "The house needs repairs. Sophie's school fees are due." I was already paying more than the court ordered, stretching my paycheck to the breaking point, but it was never enough. The texts came weekly, then daily. Demands, guilt trips, always about money. Something wasn't right. Laura's lifestyle didn't add up. The vacations, the car, the clothes, none of it matched what I knew about her income. I started keeping track, saving her texts, noticing the patterns. I wasn't paranoid, but I wasn't stupid either. I needed answers. I hired a private investigator. His name was Mike, a grizzled guy with a gravelly voice and a no-nonsense attitude. He'd seen it all: cheating spouses, deadbeat dads, corporate scams. I told him everything: the divorce, the money, the jacket on the couch. "Give me a week," he said. A week later he called me to a diner. He slid a folder across the table, his face grim. "Daniel," he said, "your ex-wife's living with someone. A guy named Paul. Lawyer. Big money. They've been together since before the divorce." Before the divorce. The words hit like a sledgehammer. I'd been working double shifts, coming home to crying babies, fixing leaks, while Laura was planning her exit. With him, Mike kept talking. Paul wasn't just rich, he was connected. He'd helped Laura file the divorce, pushed it through the courts like it was nothing. They'd hidden assets, manipulated the system. The house, the car, the vacations, it was all his money. And mine. My child support payments, my alimony, funneled into their life. I sat there, staring at the folder. Bank statements, emails, photos of Laura and Paul at restaurants, her hand on his arm, her smile brighter than I'd seen in years. I understood now. The divorce wasn't about finding herself. It was a trade-up. She'd used me, bled me dry, and moved on to someone with deeper pockets. But she wasn't done. The texts kept coming. More demands, more excuses. She thought I was still the same guy, scraping by, too tired to fight. She didn't know I was starting to see the truth. 3 years after the divorce, my life changed again. My uncle, Henry, passed away. He'd been a quiet man, lived alone in a cabin in the mountains, no wife, no kids. I hadn't seen him in years, but we'd been close when I was a kid. He taught me how to fish, how to fix a carburetor, how to keep going when life got heavy. When his lawyer called me in, I expected a small keepsake, maybe a fishing rod or an old photo. Instead, I got everything. The cabin, 40 acres of land in the mountains, stocks, a bank account with 7 figures. Overnight, I went from living paycheck to wealthy. It didn't feel real. I sat in the lawyer's office, staring at the will, my hands steady, but my mind racing. This was a chance to start over, to give my kids a better life, a college fund for Emily, Sophie, and Noah, a home where they could grow up safe, loved, whole. I didn't tell anyone, not my friends, not my co-workers, definitely not Laura. I wanted to rebuild quietly, without eyes on me. I started planning. I'd sell the apartment, move closer to the kids, maybe fix up the cabin. I'd keep my head down, stay focused. But secrets don't stay secret. Not in a small town. One night, Laura showed up at my apartment. She was all smiles, her hair perfect, her voice soft. "Daniel," she said, "I made a mistake. I want us to be a family again." Her words were rehearsed, like lines from a play. She stood in my doorway, wearing a dress I knew cost more than my rent. Her eyes were bright, but they weren't looking at me. They were scanning the apartment, lingering on my new watch, the keys to the cabin on the counter. I understood. She'd heard about the inheritance. Someone had talked. An old friend, a cousin, a clerk at the lawyer's office. And now here she was, playing the part of the remorseful wife. "I miss you," she said, stepping closer, her hand brushing my arm. "The kids need us together. We can start over." And I didn't flinch, didn't yell. I just looked at her, saw the calculation behind her tears. I played along. "What do you want, Laura?" I asked. She talked about rebuilding trust, about making things right, but her words were hollow. She didn't want me. She wanted the money. I didn't confront her, didn't scream. Anger doesn't fix betrayal. It clouds you, makes you sloppy. Strategy, though, strategy works. I told Laura I'd think about it, sent her away with a vague promise to talk later. Then I called Mike. "Find everything," I said. "Every lie, every dollar. I want it all." Mike didn't hesitate. He dug deeper than before, pulling bank records, emails, even text messages. What he found was worse than I'd imagined. Laura and Paul had been siphoning my child support payments into a joint account. They'd lied about expenses, school fees, home repairs, medical bills, pocketing the extra. They'd forged documents, inflated costs, used my money to fund their life. It was fraud, plain and simple. I took it to a lawyer, not one of Paul's buddies, but a woman named Karen, sharp and fair, with a reputation for winning tough cases. I laid it all out. The divorce, the money, the lies. I didn't just want my money back. I wanted my kids. They deserved better than a mother who used them as pawns. Karen built the case like a fortress. Bank records, Mike's photos, Laura's own texts, demanding more. We filed for fraud and for custody. The courtroom was quiet, sterile, but the air was thick with tension. Laura sat across from me, her face pale, her hands twisting in her lap. Paul was there too, in a tailored suit, his smirk fading as Karen laid out the evidence. The judge didn't blink. The records were clear. The lies were undeniable. Laura had manipulated the system, used my payments for her own gain. Paul had helped her, thinking his connections would protect them. They were wrong. The ruling came down like a hammer. Laura lost primary custody. The kids came to live with me. The house, the one I'd poured my sweat into, was returned to me. I didn't want it, not really. Too many memories, too much pain. But it was mine again. A small victory. Paul vanished, left Laura to face the fallout alone. She came to me one last time, after the verdict. Stood outside my apartment, tears streaming down her face, begging for forgiveness. "I'm sorry, Daniel," she said. "I didn't mean for it to go this far." I looked at her and I felt nothing. Not anger, not pain, just clarity. I understood who she was. A woman who chased money, chased a man who didn't stay, and lost everything that mattered. I didn't need to yell, didn't need to fight. The truth had done the work. I closed the door, I sold the house. It was too heavy, too full of ghosts. The kids and I moved to the cabin in the mountains. It needed work. New floors, a better roof, a kitchen that didn't feel like 1975. But it was ours. Emily, now 8, picked out paint for her room, a bright yellow that made her smile. Sophie, 6, started a garden, planting flowers and vegetables with a seriousness that made me laugh. Noah, 4, learned to fish in the stream behind the cabin, his little hands clumsy but determined. We're not perfect. There are still hard days. Emily asks about her mom sometimes, and I don't know what to say. Sophie has nightmares, clings to me when the thunder rolls in. Noah's too young to understand it all, but he feels the weight of it. Still, we're together. We're building something new. I don't hate Laura. Hate's too heavy, too consuming. I pity her. She chased a life that glittered, a man who promised her the world and ended up with nothing. No kids, no house, no Paul. Just herself and the choices she made. Me? I've got my kids. I've got the cabin, the mountains, the quiet. I've got a future. The inheritance isn't just money. It's a chance to give Emily, Sophie, and Noah the life they deserve. College funds, a home where they feel safe. A dad who shows up every day no matter what. Betrayal cuts deep. It leaves scars you can't see, but it doesn't define you. You rebuild, you move forward. And sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's living well. It's finding peace. I understood that now. I understood. This is my story. Not an ending, but a beginning. A new chapter, written on our terms.